There are a number of traits that I think are really important for leaders. I would say number one would be equanimity. Well, leaders often encounter really traumatic situations, and to remain calm under that kind of stress, I think is really important for others to see because it can engender confidence in that leader. So I think that's probably the number one characteristic. I also think it's important to have courage. You need a leader who is willing to do things that are difficult. And sometimes there are things that other people disagree with, and to have the courage to be able to do so, and hand in hand with courage, a moral fortitude. So having a sense of what's right and what's wrong and being willing to stand up for what you believe in. Commitment is another characteristic that good leaders have, being dedicated and committed to whatever it is you're doing. You want a leader who's going to work hard. You don't want a leader who's lazy. You got to have someone who's really going to be committed for the long haul. Optimism, I think, would be, there are other characteristics, but optimism is one that I believe all good leaders have, to be able to encourage those around you, to make them believe that things are going to be good. If things are dark, that things are going to be better. But having that ongoing sense of optimism and being able to convey that positivity to those that you're trying to lead, I think, is a really important characteristic. This is kind of a double negative in that I think leaders should avoid not doing hard things. So it's easy to procrastinate and put at the bottom of your to-do list all of the really hard things that go along with a leadership role, but it's important to do those things. Do them in the appropriate way, but don't let them just linger on and on and on, because individuals who are following you or were following you will lose respect. They'll see you as someone who's not willing to do the hard things that go along with the job. So not procrastinating, not avoiding things that are really important is critical. Another thing to avoid is the tendency to want to be liked. I think a lot of leaders want others to like them, and that ends up making leaders not make the right decisions, I think, because you're trying to ensure that other people are going to be happy with you, other people are pleased, and that's going to lead you in the wrong direction. And along with that, it's difficult to know what it is that's going to make someone like you. So leaders misstep in trying to ensure that they are well liked, and in doing so, they may not be liked at all. Those individuals who seem like they like the leader may not be happy with what the leader is doing. So avoiding that completely and recognizing that tension and conflict can lead to stronger relationships. So doing hard things, not being focused on trying to have others like you, but actually doing what you think is right, and some of the characteristics that good leaders have, just sticking to those and dealing with the conflict and the tension of a situation can lead to strong relationships. Some of the students who I'm closest with today didn't like me at first. They thought I was hard and difficult and unreasonable, but over time they grew to see what I was like, I grew to see what they were like. But if I had started out just trying to make all my students like me, I think things wouldn't have ended up in that place. And the last thing that I would say is some leaders have a tendency to try to say what they think others want to hear. And that's a really bad path to go down. You have to think about what it is you really believe in, do your homework, feel confident about what you're going to do, and then say that. But don't try to say what you think others want you to say. I'm going to say more than one thing. So first, this job. The job I have now as dean, it's the biggest leadership role that I've ever had, and it was particularly challenging because I had to come to a new place where I didn't know anyone. on top of not knowing really what the job entailed. I had some idea, or at least I faked it during the interview process so people thought I did. But when I got here, I had a lot to learn. I had to get to know the people, and I had to be really patient. I have been patient, in trying to get to a point where people can have confidence in me. I was at the University of Georgia for 20 years, so I had 20 years of capital that I was able to build up. But coming to a brand new place and not having that, and people not knowing me, and trying to be patient and just let people get used to who I am and how I do things has been a big challenge, on top of just learning everything and dealing with all the various constituencies. So it's been the biggest challenge I've ever had, but it's been a great challenge, and it's an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. More broadly, I would say that a challenge that I struggle with is having confidence, and that kind of goes hand in hand with this job, but having confidence in myself that I can do the things that go along with a role of this nature, or any leadership role for that matter. Having to overcome that continued self-doubt or belief that maybe this is too much. It's something that I struggle with, and I think I was supposed to talk about overcoming it. I'm not sure I've fully overcome it because it still lingers in my mind, but I overcome it from day to day. So there's some days when I feel like I can't do it, but I do things that help me get to the point where I know that I can. It sort of happened naturally. I don't know that I focused on trying to prepare to be a leader, but I was very fortunate throughout my life to come under the tutelage of a number of really amazing leaders in different places. So when I was in college, I got to be very close with the president of the university. He's a role model to me. He's still alive. He's 92 years old. He's one of the greatest human beings in the world. And just being able to watch how he led a university from a place where it was a good university, but he took it to being a great university. And he always exhibited amazing moral character. A lot of tough issues came to the university while he was there, and watching him navigate those issues taught me a lot. I had the same experience when I was in law school, being able to be close to professors who were in leadership positions in law school, and watching how they navigated the academic environment was really instructional. And then in practice, I practiced at a law firm in Atlanta for 8 years, and just fortuitously, my mentor ended up being the managing partner of the firm. So he was leading a really large firm and had to deal with all sorts of issues, and watching him, working with him, and trying to take traits from all those individuals and think about how they lead in different contexts, and incorporating those into what I do has been really important to me. The other thing that I've done is to read about leaders, and there are three people who I kind of adore: Bobby Kennedy, Muhammad Ali, and Martin Luther King. They're all different in terms of how they were leaders, but there are aspects of each of them. If you go to my office, I got pictures of all of them in my office, and the courage that Muhammad Ali exhibited in standing up for what he thought was right. He was a show person throughout his career, but after that, just the compassion and the concern that he had for all people, what he exhibited was profound. And Bobby Kennedy was just an amazing leader who transformed. I think he started out as someone who wasn't as committed to civil rights, and he saw it up close and personal, and it affected him, his family, his confidants, and he started to do a lot of things. And it seemed like we were on a really positive trajectory until he was tragically assassinated. And Martin Luther King, just an amazing leader, like Bobby Kennedy, who was taken away far too soon. But the qualities they exhibited, a number of them are the things that I spoke about earlier: courage, commitment, optimism, moral character. They all had that, all three of them. And so those are people that I look to how they live their lives and try to do some things that they did. So the number one quality that I would look for in individuals who are going to be leaders working with me would be sound judgment. I want someone who is going to be able to weigh the pros and cons of any given decision and make a sound decision about that particular issue. I want that person to be someone that I can trust. So trustworthiness goes hand in hand with that concept of sound judgment. Someone that I can rely upon. I don't have to worry that they're not going to do what's in the best interest of the institution. Other characteristics that are important: honesty. Someone who's going to be honest and forthright in dealing with others. Integrity. Having integrity is going to engender respect, and a leader has to have the respect of those that the leader is leading. If they don't have respect in that person, it's going to be very difficult for them to accomplish anything. Something I mentioned earlier was equanimity. Leaders are going to be put into difficult situations, and in those situations you want the leader to be able to remain calm and to work through whatever the problem is, because that too is going to, along with integrity and honesty, that's going to engender respect from those who are following the leader. They know that this person has it under control. It's going to keep them calm. And optimism. Optimism, having a sense that things are going to be all right, goes along with that equanimity. We can work through this problem. There's no reason to get discouraged. And the last one, and this one I think is really important, is compassion. You want a leader who feels for those around them, that they're going to be exuding care. It's not just, here's how it is, doesn't matter, you got to do what I say, but trying to figure out where people are coming from and ensuring that you exhibit that compassion in dealing with those who you are leading. I've had the good fortune throughout this entire year to be a part of the Chancellor's Leadership Academy. So the Chancellor selected leaders, kind of new leaders across campus, department heads, deans, other individuals who have leadership roles. And we meet once a month. We're together for about 5 hours, and we've covered different topics. And I found that to be immensely rewarding, especially watching the people who come in. These are the individuals, some of whom are at the highest levels of the university, talk about the challenges that they have leading in an academic environment. And leading in an academic environment is different from leading in other environments. So that experience, I feel like I've been in class for the whole year, and it's been very beneficial and has enabled me to reflect upon who I am as a leader and what I need to do. It's also been great just to see these other individuals as examples and how they lead, and trying to incorporate those things into who I am as a leader. The other thing is just to be generally observant of other leaders, good and bad. I won't tell you who our bad leaders are, but there are bad leaders out there, and to see the sorts of things that just don't work, that don't go over well, and making sure that I don't go down the path of incorporating those types of habits into what I do. The last thing that I think helps me get better is to care. I care immensely about the institution, the people here at the College of Law, and I want to do what's best for the institution, and kind of always having that in mind, and being self-reflective and wondering whether or not the things that I'm doing are actually benefiting the College of Law. That's something that helps me grow as a leader.